Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II, World at War with our Allied playthrough. The date is November 7th, 1941. Soviet Union has entered the war by themselves through mobilization due to Germany's actions and due to the weakness of the Japanese. They have entered of their own accord, and thus their frontline forces have spawned in without being immediately slaughtered by the Germans. Meanwhile, our push into Manchuria has turned into a push going into Korea, because that's just how amazing we're doing. The Japanese have summoned everything in their power to defend Harbin, to try to prevent Manchuria, from falling. Korea itself has only planes in it that I can see, which is special. Indochina is falling. We have a lot of things that are about to change and that are about to turn. So let's cover one thing regarding money before anything else. So if we go to the war maps and we go to the convoys, we can see all these convoys. And I put some thought into this. We can see, oh look, South Africa to the UK. Okay, all these colonies sending stuff to the UK. It's all set amounts. Changes based on the season. And a certain amount is generated depending on, does the convoy go through the Mediterranean? Does it go around the Mediterranean? We reduced the amount we were getting because of this. Hell, even the enemies have some. Manchukuo ships iron to Japan. We actually cut this off. So that's not doing anything, because we've taken Port Arthur, which is fantastic. There's also the German convoys sending things into Germany from these Nordic countries. We can't really do anything about those. But now, namely, one thing that's still newer in the series is the fact that America can now do Lend-Lease. Right now, it's a little impeded. 75% of its full capacity because we have seasonal reductions. It's fall. It's probably just going to get worse in the winter. But we committed to sending 30% of America's MPPs over to the UK. That's a lot, especially because more ways are going to open up to spend this in the future. Now, something huge showed up with the USSR's entrance into the war. We haven't sent the USSR any money from anybody. However, we now have the ability to send up to 40% of the UK's income. And this includes the income, I believe, from the US Lend-Lease to the UK, as well as all the other convoys. This includes that. This is also at a current debuff just due to being fall. So sometimes that'll happen. This includes everything. The UK is gaining like over 400 MPPs a turn. Think about what 40% of that is at full capacity. UK is ending up with 514. We ended the last term with like 33 or less, maybe like 6, in which case we're gaining like more like 500 for the UK. Think of what 40% of that is. You know, we're talking over 200 we could send maybe at full capacity. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to up this all the way to 40%. Now, that is technically going to weaken the UK. We're at 138 right now just because of the debuff. This is not actually 40% of our MPPs. It's just that it's at 75% of the rate due to the seasonal conditions. But next turn, the USSR, who's generating something like 400 or 400 plus all by itself with no one else giving it anything, is going to get an additional 138. That with a couple of production technology increases is enough to spawn a core a turn. Think about when it's not fall, we're guaranteed a core a turn even without any of that. That's a lot of MPPs, but that's a lot of MPPs that's coming from the UK. The UK is currently maintaining a front line in Brest. It's currently maintaining the entire Greek line. It's currently sending African units to Greece. It's currently maintaining its entire navy in the battle for the Atlantic. It's currently failing to keep up with maintaining things like New Zealand and Australia. And we've barely gotten into defending like Malaya and making sure that that at least had reinforcements. Although the readiness of morale here is garbage due to the lack of any HQ or anything like that, which we can't get over there. Oh yeah, not to mention we also have the Indians, another major, who were sending the max 25% of their MPPs that they make, and that's constantly going up. It was 30% or so, 35% when we were going through the Mediterranean. Thankfully with India, the MPPs don't just vanish if they're not sent. It's just that the total is reduced. Like for the miners, it just vanishes, all that extra for routing around the Mediterranean. But we're probably getting more than we otherwise would dealing with the Italian Navy at the very least. So I have decided to send 40% of the entirety of the UK's income. In a season uninhibited, we're looking at sending over 200. That is crazy. Now, the reason is because if we look at the USSR, look at how much stuff they can make. Look, they spawned a bunch of stuff, but look at everything they can make. We have railguns. This is probably some kind of artillery. Yeah, 2-strike range. It's like strategic artillery. Quite interesting. It'd be upgraded to go for normal dudes as well. We have armored trains. We have anti-tank. Look, we can make 15 armies more than we have right now. 4 more corps than we have right now. 13 garrisons. 5 more HQs. Another heavy tank unit. We must have at least one. 4 more regular tank units. Look at all this. Rocket artillery. Heavy artillery. Anti-air. Shock armies. What is this thing? I don't even know. What the fuck's a shock army compared to a normal army? What is a shock army? It looks just like a normal army, if I'm being honest. It doesn't do resource damage. It does more demoralization. It has more action points. Its defenses against air are slightly better. So it's similar. It's a little special. It's a little special. It can still have all the same things, but that's 5 more armies, essentially. And that's not even it. With all the planes we just spawned in, we can still have 2 more of attack bombers, medium bombers, strategic bombers, maritime bombers. We're capped out on fighters for now. We can make 3 battleships, 3 light cruisers, 2 destroyers, a carrier, and 2 subs. On top of having everything that currently just deployed, we got the S4 sub here. We have this destroyer here, a battleship. We have the Gorky light cruiser. We have 2 light cruisers here. This is insane. The USSR is so capable. They have the manpower. They just need the money. And since I don't have to worry about the real life geopolitical complications of giving such a terrible regime a bunch of money, I'm going to utilize this. The UK is going to continue fighting. They are still going to have a lot of MPPs. They're going to focus very heavily on Greece and Brest especially. And, you know, finishing up Africa. But that's not too expensive. Australia and New Zealand, I basically plan on ignoring. Malaya, I've done what I can for it. I can buy them some fighters. We'll do a thing or 2 here or there where it's only absolutely necessary because the Chinese pretty much have this area under wraps. And all we really need from the UK is, from this point forward, naval forces, which Australia can provide. But we'll look into that more when Pearl Harbor actually happens. And then America's going to help with the naval stuff and clearing up the Pacific. You see what I'm getting at here? We have a very good situation here. It is currently November 7th. It's already snowing in Russia. It's raining down here in Ukraine, Pripyat, all these places. We have strategic decisions that we have to make. Again, as I mentioned, all this stuff spawned in and it got to live because the Germans were not able to attack because the USSR joined of its own free will. So, I've been thinking about how to best do this. The whole thing about Germany's offensive, which the AI has very much built up for, and is still more technologically advanced than us, was that they had to make as much territory claim before the winter as possible. Otherwise, the winter would be bad for them. We are prepared for the winter thanks to attacking the Finnish earlier. The Germans are not. Whether it loses them supplies or actually hurts them, I don't know. But I know they have negative effects. Therefore, the strategy that I have come up with is I have cores up here that are dug in at some towns. I left them there expecting a gigantic German push. These ones are probably going to stay there. The ones that I already had, like the ones at Minsk, just to give the enemy a little bit of a fight, just to make sure they don't push completely uninhibited. But the thing is about everything that popped in is that it doesn't have any upgrades and none of it is at full strength. If this stuff stays here, it will die it will cost hundreds. Maybe if you include everything up to here, at least 2,000, maybe. Maybe, I don't actually know. But a lot of MPPs to actually recover. Not to mention, look, there's an HQ here. HQs are so important for supply. So, the garrisons be damned. The things that I had entrenched already up at the front here be damned. I'm going to let the Germans in. Because there's only so much territory they can gain by the time winter starts. It's almost December. It's already snowing. If we just, for those that are on a railroad, if we just operate them away, 21 MPP to operate this away, compared to what? 200 to 300? I'm about to say 200, maybe 150 to reform it after it dies? This is insane. Not to mention all the air units. We have an air force out of nowhere that we can not only save, but that we can get ready to fight. The Germans will hopefully start taking their winter attrition when they reach the river, being hopefully a little slowed down by the things that I left in the north intentionally, or in the west, I guess. And the garrisons will die, but reforming a garrison won't be a big problem. We then hold them off in the winter here at this line, not at the edge of Moscow, not near Stalingrad, however you pronounce that. No, we make our line at this river. We hold them here, we get everybody ready to go. And then, the moment we sense weakness, we attack west. That is my plan. We are going to save so much MPPs, we're going to save so much destruction, and I think we can really make this work. All the while, the Brits will be distracting enemy corps and armies, having to garrison over in Paris. With the position at Brest, we're nowhere near being able to actually, hurt anything or do anything, unfortunately. That much is sad. However, add this with Greece, and the fact that the Brits will be arriving from Africa up into Greece, we can get the British Air Force a lot more capable over here. We can start pushing out against the Italians, who have no real cities over here to work with, except if we push them back into Yugoslavia. We have a much better angle and a much better situation. We're going to have much more troops here. And I think we can kind of distract them, pushing out 3 different fronts. 2 of them sponsored by the UK. I guess you could say this one's sponsored by the UK as well, because the UK is going to be funding a lot of this, with the other one being the massive Soviet front. Now, I know we're almost halfway through the video, and I haven't done a goddamn fucking thing yet, except assign a convoy value. But I needed to explain my strategy here. And feel free to leave in the comments whether or not you agree with this strategy or not, or what you would do, you think, in this situation. But I think that this is a good strategy. So, I need to start the process of getting all the valuable units off the front line. One reason of note that I definitely do want to try to slow them down in key crossroads and junctures like Minsk and these fortresses that have popped up, however you pronounce this, also Riga and down south, is because not all these units can actually get away very easily. Case in point, right here. See these 2 rifle corps? They're not on a rail line. That's not good. Look at how far they can run. They can just run to Minsk. There's panzers behind them. These panzers will catch them and kill them. However, we can at least force march. Now you see what I'm thinking here. The force march can get them in front of the big defensive line that I've set up. Get them behind Minsk. Minsk, the army there, for example, can hold the line to try to let these rifle corps escape. Now they're going to get there. They're going to have low supply, right? Their readiness is going to be fucked, morale fucked, but that's fine. They're going to get behind the defensive line, and they're simply going to hold their position and build up, and that's what we're going to do. The fighters don't really need to operate. We can just fly them. We don't need to, operating them is very expensive, but why operate them when we can literally just fly them in almost every instance, way behind our lines? We just have to make sure they go somewhere that has supply eventually so that we could get them up to snuff, whether that's behind the defensive line or back to Moscow where they'll be completely safe. So let's start from top. to bottom. So in a lot of these instances, going up to Moscow could be the best idea. Leningrad is also very well in supply, although partially because we got some new free units up here as well. HQs, it's going to be so necessary. We have one HQ, only one up here, and as you can see, it's not providing a whole lot. We're going to need more HQs. More, definitely more. What kind of leaders do we have? We got a rating 4 leader, we have a rating 4 leader, we have a rating 5 leader. Do we have any better leaders? Yeah, we have 6s. What's this one all the way in the east? Rating 8. Oh my god, this is our best HQ leader, like, ever. Wow, we even have more stuff behind Moscow. Okay, so the stuff here should be safe enough if it goes to Leningrad. The supply from Leningrad itself is amazing. So we're going to send the tactical bombers just as far northeast as they can get. We're going to send these Baltic fighters. Ooh, they can't go nearly as far, but they can still get behind the defensive line. So we're going to do that. Damn, that's so much more limited. Their action points are very limited spawning in. It may be partially due to the weather that they started it. I'm not really sure. This is an example of a unit that is not on a line that we would really be able to operate them from. So they're going to have to force march, and we're going to force march them up towards Leningrad. Up to Leningrad is not the most defended, but it's safe enough, I think. It's safe enough. This rifle corps can be operated, although this rifle corps is in easy force march reach of Narva here, which has some pretty decent supply as well. So we'll want to save any money while we can. Because if we save money, sure, these units may be a little bit delayed getting into the fight. However, we can use that money on research to catch up to the Germans. We can use that money on actually purchasing new units, of which we are nowhere near hitting our cap of. Same thing with this one. We can get pretty far up there. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to force march these. Their readiness and morale just do not matter. They have other friends that will help hold the line to the south. We even have a first tanks unit that we can go ahead and deploy pretty much anywhere we want. I'm not 100% on where I want to deploy this. I'm thinking way up north. This is where I put most of the motorized, mechanized things. I've left cavalry mostly in the south. Just because it may need a little bit of help over here. So we're going to go ahead and I'm not quite sure exactly where or what I want to do with this yet. We'll put this over here in Estonia. I believe this is still Estonia. Might be in Latvia. I'm not sure. So this tank spawned in here. It can entrench there up to 3. I don't know if we're going to keep it there, but this area just kind of needed a little bit more protection. So I decided to do that. Nothing that we lose up here, by the way, guys, in my opinion, is going to be that bad. Like these towns, sure, it produces MPPs. Sure, we don't want the enemies getting that. Sure, it produces a fuck ton of supply. However, the benefits of saving these units without rushing others to their demise and taking advantage of the Russian winter, in my eyes, outweighs all the cons. So, supply behind this town is really good. Really, really good. This fighter cannot get... Ooh, this fighter is going to be a tough one. Because the enemy is going to push up, and they're going to push up, like, in right here. Getting them somewhere safe is going to be hard. However, they shouldn't be able to push all the way up here, so to avoid having to pay the rather big cost of 42 MPPs to operate, we're going to send them to what I believe to be the safest location here, which is going to be this marsh in front of the defensive line. These medium bombers can go behind the garrison, guarding the Dnieper, where they should hopefully be safe. Now let's see. Unfortunately, it's the readiness here is problematic. The readiness is it the readiness? It may be the fact that they're bordering enemies. A lot of these units cannot force march. If they don't force march, they can get to right about here. However, look at everything that's here. These have mobility. They can go almost as far as a tank. We don't want them to get caught. And virtually, like, most of this is going to get caught if we don't operate it. So this is where we're going to have to operate. So we're going to operate this mechanized 21 MPPs. We got to get it somewhere, again, that has really good supply. And we want to have it somewhere near where it's actually going to be able to fight sooner rather than later. So just behind the Dnieper, this is the, yeah, somewhere near the Don over here. by Kharkov and etc., where they will be able to recover and then rejoin the front, especially down here, since that's kind of the direction everything's going, would probably be best in every single instance. Kharkov makes a lot of supply, so dropping everybody off around Kharkov could be handy. However, it's also kind of close to the front. So we'd have to really, really hope everything here could hold off. But we do have more units that have spawned here that we can get ready while these other ones are getting to safety. So we're going to go ahead and operate this unit. We're going to drop it off at, let's say, just behind Kharkov. This mechanized will operate to Kharkov itself. This rifle corps will operate just... We're going to try to be as far back behind Kharkov in every instance as possible, just to really avoid any nonsense the enemies are going to push us through. This garrison will stay, it will die, that's fine. I don't need garrisons right now. I can purchase more garrisons later, but I don't need them. And all of these frontline units that are deployed here is safe, except this light tank. This light tank needs to get away. And it doesn't even need a force march. It can just drive over here, where it should be able to regain everything it loses. This HQ needs to be deployed very strategically. It's one of our only 2 HQs. Well, we have 4. This one kind of needs to recover. However, it needs to build up. This one doesn't. This one is in perfect condition. 30 MPPs to deploy it. Where do we want to deploy it? Ironically, this town actually would have been pretty great for it. However, it doesn't need to be on the town just yet. But it does need to be in this area to provide a lot of benefit. Oh, in fact, if it could be right next to this anti-air, that would be especially useful. For right now, we can't get it that far. So instead, we're just going to bring it right here. If I could put it in this field, that would be cool. If I could put it on this town later, that would probably be pretty helpful to providing some more supply. But getting it out of there is of utmost importance. We have the Western fighters here who can also escape all the way up to the defensive line. Actually, really very lucky here that they have so many action points. I wonder how much of it's due to weather. Well, they have 10 action points. They didn't start in a terrible location. We'll go ahead and fly them as far back as they can get. And hopefully they'll be good. We have this mechanized unit, which also cannot operate due to its proximity to the front. It's going to have to go somewhere back where it can join the front soon. I don't even know if we should put it in the center, because the center is where we're most defended. We might want it actually in the south or the north, where it could be handier. I have a big mechanized presence in the north and, soon the south. So that could potentially be what I want to do with this mechanized unit, is just have it join the north or the south, where it could then join a mechanized, maybe encirclement effort, whereas the infantry stay closer to the center, where they could fight a war of attrition. I don't know. It doesn't have to necessarily be figured out right now. We just have to get them to safety. This might be easier to figure out with the rifle corps, however. Can the rifle corps force march their way away? They can. They can. Okay. And it's far enough back that I think it's safe. So we're going to force march back, because we can hide behind Minsk with these units and save some MPPs in the process. Get up to the defensive line. The mechanized, yeah, let's see. So we have a tank, 1, 2, 3 mechanized units, motorized, that kind of thing, and some cav, 2 cav. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here. It's also this armored train up here. So I'm going to send this to the south, and we'll have a more infantry-based center and more mechanized and motorized southern edges. We'll send this one over to Stelino, which is apparently the name for a set of mines, quite an interesting name, where it should be able to recover as well, and then rejoin that front. And then with that, we have secured the entire Soviet front line. Some of it, the force march stuff, might be in for a little bit of pain. Maybe the Germans can get some airstrikes on, but I have fighter presence in the south. I have them... Wait. Oh, wait. Okay, they should be guarding things. Yeah, they are. Okay, it was just hard to see the color. And in the north, and I think I have enough coverage to keep them all protected. I can't wait till we get the rest of this going up. Research is important, but what matters right now the most is getting units up to snuff. Now, these 2 corps, they actually shipped with the infantry weapons we have. So I'm going to prioritize reinforcing these before anything else. Also, I got this Vladivostok Corps out here specifically to give it an elite reinforcement. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it that, because I definitely wanted that. This light tank spawned here. Interesting. So we can go ahead and we can reinforce that. We're going to be prioritizing getting units up to snuff before anything else. In some cases, that's reinforcing. In other cases, that's upgrades. I'm going to prioritize reinforcing the closest it is to the front. But I think this tank can also get like advanced tanks as well. Because I think we have a level in that. Yeah, we have a level 1 of advanced tanks. So we'll need to get an upgrade in these light tanks later. Well, these are only light tanks too. Wonder how that's going to affect things. But otherwise, things in the rear need to be getting infantry weapon upgrades and things like that. There's also this HQ, which we can get up to max strength right now. So I will. I'll get that up to max strength right now with its current situation. Do we have mobility yet? We probably don't. Oh man, are we desperately going to need that? Maybe. I don't know. We could also push more slowly. Still, it won't be too bad. And then back here, we're going to apply infantry weapons before anything to these cores that are in the rear. And then we'll reinforce them, and then they shouldn't even be needed at Stalingrad, because I don't plan to lose the Dnieper and whatever the hell these rivers up here are called. I don't know if this is still the Dnieper or not. These ones at Moscow came with their upgrades. Let's go ahead and let's reinforce them. We started with like over 400, like 460 something of just like pure like saving up and self-production with the Russians, and we've already spent like basically all of it, which is an experience. This armored train has been sitting here because this whole time I haven't been necessarily sure what to do with it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it up north here into this marsh to kind of fill this. And you can't even entrench here, so it's not really that big of a deal. Because we have so much stuff that can come up from the rear as well. Now that all this stuff survived. Whew. Okay, we have 88 MPPs remaining. We have a lot of things over here in the east as well, including another HQ with an amazing leader. Like an amazing leader that's amazing. Due to the amount of MPPs the USSR has, we may really want to consider sacking pretty much like almost, maybe not this guy, but like every other HQ's leader and replacing them. We can't do it right now, but replacing them with better ones because their rating is 4. If we get 6s, which we have a lot of, that could be pretty handy. Now, you have upgrades, you have upgrades, you have upgrades. All these things can get like elite reinforcements back here, but they all came with their upgrades. So I think I will get them their elite reinforcements before sending them to the front, because we have more fighters, we have more bombers. We're going to want to operate these. We're not going to want to just send these over. Supply over here is surprisingly good along this road. I wonder if it's partially because of this HQ, or it just might always be this good over here. We're not going to need the Soviets for taking on Japan and Manchuria. China has that under wraps. So let's start with the land units, as that's probably the most important thing. Imagine elite armies. Look at this. Here's one. Are these all armies? These are all armies. Oh my god. Imagine this elite armies with their infantry weapons arriving at the front just in time for the Russian winter. Wow. Let's go ahead and get this army up as well. And then with that, we've spent pretty much all of the USSR's money. I'm not quite sure how to handle this. We don't have enough ports to really be safe up here. I'll move the destroyer out from port. I'll move the battleship in port, because keeping that alive matters the most. Move the light cruiser back, move this destroyer back. I don't necessarily want to go to Tallinn, because we could very well lose Tallinn. At very least, I could keep the destroyer up in Tallinn to kind of try to keep everything safe. We don't have advanced subs or anything, but we could still put these subs to work. They could always retreat if need be. If we take this sub and we get it somewhere next to this right here, we can raid it. Even if it's just for a little bit of MPPs, reducing the MPPs Germany has will make this all the easier. Now, from what I know, so long as the sub is not in silent mode, it will automatically raid. So, I'm hoping that what I've done here will do this. I've tried this over here earlier as the Brits, and I ended up making a bunch of naval mistakes because it just didn't work. But hopefully this will end up working. Maybe it's chance-based. I saw you're primarily supposed to be adjacent and not on, so maybe this will help. And we could just stay right near Finland, because Finland is not going to be our enemy. And they might even join the Allies, which would be fantastic. The first turn or two, maybe 3, of the Russian front is still going to hurt like hell. We will lose corps. We will lose armies. We will lose garrisons. We might even lose cavalry, maybe some air, who knows? But we're about to lose a lot less than we otherwise would have. We're saving so much money, so please have faith in my plan if you don't already. The USSR does have 3 chits we can use in diplomacy, but I don't think any diplomacy that we can use the USSR for is going to be nearly as important as actually just putting it right into troops. Given the importance of the Russian theater, now that the Greek theater is still open and there's a Brest theater open and we can just pour so much points into it. That is my opinion. You may agree, you may not. I have taken up the entire episode talking about my plans for this theater and starting to enact them, just so you guys have an idea. I know some of you may or may not like me doing so much talking, but rather than just doing things, I want you to understand why I'm doing things and like come along on this journey with me. And I hope my viewers are used to that kind of thing by now. You know, I don't even think we're gonna need this garrison at Archangelsk. This is great. Honestly, thinking about it, no, we're really not gonna need this garrison here. We have enough MPPs to operate it, and I know where I want to put it. Right here, because if it's right here, then Sevastopol will have some help. And Sevastopol is probably gonna get pushed up to, if I'm being honest. It has time to start entrenching, and it can hopefully do some good work here. Was it just a few episodes ago I said we had our longest turn yet? No, this is probably gonna be our longest turn yet. But I'm excited for everything going forward. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you're as excited as I am to see my plans in motion here. And we're gonna have to continue this on the next one.